welcome to the Healing Station with Dr. Red. I am your host, Dr. Red, and I am so excited about today's podcast that we're recording. I'm excited to introduce to you a amazing bookkeeper who's going to tell you a little bit about what she does, and also just how she incorporates faith in what she does. We're going to talk about finances and faith, and this is going to be a good conversation. I personally know how money can be so personal. It can be stressful, it can be traumatic, it can be all these things depending on the messages you got around finances, the SES you grew up in, all of that. And so I want to talk about like her business and how she helps businesses definitely get their money and their finances on track, as well as her experiences around money. So hello, Rashida Boyd. Hi,
Hi
girl.
there,
Introduce
Dr.
yourself to the people.
Red.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today.
You're welcome. So tell us about
Yeah,
yourself. Tell us about your business and all of that. So let's start with that intro.
absolutely. So, as the nice introduction said, my name is Rashida Boyd, and I am the owner of RMA Bookkeeping Solutions. And we are a virtual-based bookkeeping and accounting firm where we do all the things to help busy business owners get their finances in order, right? So we do everything leading up to tax prep, just to make sure that business owners have some clarity around their financials, their finances, and that they just have support in their journey as business owners.
Absolutely. I love that. And as a
Yeah.
business owner, I appreciate it because that's
Mhm.
one thing, unfortunately, we do not learn in school. It's kind of like you
We
become an
don't.
adult, you start working, and Uncle Sam starts taking your taxes out, and you got to do it every year. You got to figure all this
I
out. And it's a
know.
lot. It's a
It's
lot.
a
And
lot. And
then
there's some
going
additional complexities as a business owner versus like working as a W-2 employee, right? So all of that's incorporated into it.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about what got you interested in going into like bookkeeping finance. Like how was RMA birth? Like how was this interest in all of that? So tell me your story. Like I want to
That is
hear your
a
story.
great, yeah, because I don't think I've ever shared my story with you. Yeah, so I've come from corporate America, so I am what you call a corporate America transition book business owner, right? And so I work for like these big organizations where the CEO was making millions of dollars, and I
Mm,
didn't see a lot of like resources going to one, people that either look like me or just resources going to like these smaller businesses. So I've known throughout my whole career that I wanted to work hand in hand with like a tangible person, somebody that I could like touch and just really impact their business from the ground up and just give a direct have a direct role in that. So
mm-hmm.
it was born out of that desire. I have an accounting and finance desire just to help people, business owners directly, just to grow their business. They don't have a lot of resources that the big companies have, right?
Yeah.
So just to make sure that they have that education. One, like you said, people aren't taught how to manage their finances. So just wanting to make sure that people are educated and making wise, prudent financial decisions with their businesses so that they can grow, scale, or do whatever it is that they desire to do with their business.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And so with that being said and really wanting to
hmm
give back and really wanting to help, I'm wondering for you on a personal note, like
Yes,
what does money mean to you? Like what has been your experience around finances?
that's a great story because me, like, okay, so this is why I resonate with a lot of my business owners. So, I didn't always have like, the perfect relationship with money. So I did what a lot I went into debt, like went to college. You
Mhm.
get into debt with student loans,
Oh
or
my
as
gosh.
soon as you get there, you're faced with like credit card applications, right? And you rack up a lot of debt. So I have been where a lot of my clients have been, where maybe they're coming into their business and I meet them and there's like a level of debt. There's a lot of stuff that we have to unpack, if you will,
Mhm.
in their business and dealing with debt and just their thoughts around finances. That was me. So as an adult growing up, I had to fight to just get myself like out of debt. And then I worked in banking and finances in those institutions as well, where um, there is education surrounding like finances, but not necessarily for the business owner. So I really pride myself in being able to just talk with business owners and kind of snowball out of that debt,
Mm-hmm.
get into savings. That's something else that even today I still journey with, making sure that I'm saving, making sure that you have, outside of your business, because business owners are so focused on like making money for their business. A lot of time they're not thinking about like long term. What are you going to retire with, right? So just making sure that every bucket is like accounted for. Um, that's important, and it's something that I today, like I'm not gonna say I have like we that we all have like student loans. Student loans, I think is the
Unfortunately.
biggest thing that like haunts a lot of us, right? That have like
Yeah,
different degrees and things like that. So just trying to navigate around getting up out of those situations.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
student loan debt. Don't want to talk about that. Don't
Our
want to talk
student
about
loans,
that.
we're paying back this month, right? So,
Yes. Oh my gosh. It did start, and I
hmm
definitely had to start doing that. So,
yes, a lot of us have, a
unfortunately,
lot of my clients have. We're talking about that right now.
it's a new bill. It's a new bill. Gosh. But
It's
yes,
great.
we knew that day was coming, but was just hoping I had a little more time. But
Mhm.
anywho, it's yeah, definitely. As I think about what you said, I know from my personal story around money, it's a little different in the sense that
Okay.
I was so afraid. I saw so
Ooh,
many people
let's
around
talk
me
about
in
it.
debt. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to call my mom out. I love you, mom. You're out of debt now. Your
Don't do
credit score
that.
is great. Um, but okay, so first of all, I was that kid. I was very inquisitive, and so
hmm
I don't know. I was very observant, and I would know about grown stuff like bills and stuff like that. But it was not a good
Okay.
thing. Like I would be so afraid, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you got to make sure you have enough money." And so to me, there was a lot of fear around money and having enough of
Mm.
it. And so I know
Okay.
now it's like a scarcity mindset and having because we didn't grow up rich, like
Yes.
we had that much money, like we grew up
Yep.
poor. Um,
Yep.
so I saw the scarcity around and I was very aware of that. And unlike other
Okay.
kids that are just like, oh, mom and dad's gonna provide, I'm over here like, oh, do they have enough to provide? What can I do to like help them? And it's like, who thinks like that? But that was me. I was that kid.
No, I love
Um,
that.
and my mom, she always like,
Like,
be a kid, don't worry about that. And I was like, I have
yeah.
to. So I
Yep.
was that, and I had like little businesses growing up selling little stuff and help selling my
Did you
Halloween
really?
candy, just all kinds of
Okay.
stuff, trying to make money. And yes, it sounds very business
Okay.
savvy and it sounds cute, but it wasn't coming from a place of like, oh, I'm trying to be a businesswoman or nothing. It was coming from a place like
Right.
scarcity mindset, like I got to make this money
Uh,
because we don't have nothing or whatever. Um,
yes.
so as I think about just having a lot of fear around money and
Hmm.
not having enough, and how that can put you in a space where you are you can make some what looks like wise financial decisions. So like of course I didn't go into debt as a result because I was afraid to get a credit card. I finally did get one once I went off to college because it was kind of like a requirement,
Okay.
but I used
Okay.
it as a debit card. And so I built
Oh,
credit, but I would always pay
mm-hmm.
off on it like before it was due. And so I ended up
Oh,
with a really great credit score as a result. However,
uh-huh.
it was again like people around me like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good with money." But they didn't realize it was actually birthed out of fear and scarcity and
You know
really
what?
feeling yeah, what are your thoughts? I'm
Go
looking at
ahead.
your
I'm
face.
sorry.
No, I
No,
see your face. Go ahead.
I love that. No, what I was going to say is that it's so interesting because whenever I start to work with somebody, like when I start to look, really dig into like how they're spending money in their business, it typically goes back to like something that happened before they even like started the business, right? So
Yeah.
how they were raised, how, money impacted them as kids, how like as they grew up, like how they dealt with money. I can tell like the story like just from how they're spending money within their business. So that's interesting to hear your story around your finances.
Yes. And so from there, it's like even growing up, like my grandmother was a praying woman and all of that. So just
Hmm.
coming from a Christian household, so knowing how, God provides and all of this, like with my
Hmm.
head, not fully understand with my heart, because I was younger, didn't fully understand that. But
Right.
bold little me was like, I'll never be broke a day in my life, not fully understanding like how you can declare and decree things, all that. But I literally would
Yes.
like say that, and it's been true. Like, I've never been broke a day in my life. Have I like sit here and have like millions of dollars in the bank? Not yet. But I've been making
Hmm.
things work with what I have. Thank God the Lord
Amen.
has provided.
Yes.
Because I'm, grad school, your girl, it was
It's
rough.
long, right? Yes.
It was rough. However, as I got, especially now as a business owner, I realized, and God has really been working with me around getting rid of the fear. Because a lot of, like I said, a lot
Hmm.
of those habits, they look good on paper, and people are like, oh, you did the money. But the root of that was not from a place of wisdom; it was a place of fear,
Hmm.
and so that's not a good thing. Um, and having to
Hmm.
really realize that I had to get rid of that fear and learn how to now think from a place of not scarcity, but from a mindset of abundance. Not so like, oh, just make it rain type of thing, but really
Yeah.
realizing that, God can provide. You do have enough, and you don't have to operate in this place of like, oh no, hold on to this because you
Scarcity.
might, like, yeah, because then
The
you can't
scarcity
expand your
mindset, right?
business like that. It's not good for a business wise, but also it's just not good in general, because as Christians, we are called to be generous. And if I'm thinking I don't have enough all the time, which I actually do, like I have more than
Hmm.
I realize, then I'm
Yes.
not giving, I'm not, and I'm always living in fear. And there'll never be enough. From that mindset, never be enough.
Right.
And calling myself out a lot right now, but from that space, from that space, I remember like I was coming back from a conference, and this is before I went into my own private practice situation. I was just still
Hmm.
working for somebody at the time, and just
Okay.
graduated from grad school. So I'm finally working as a psychologist, which means I finally make money, because, I was just taking whatever I can get before. But I'm finally making
Right.
decent money. And I'm like, okay, Lord, when I make X amount of dollars, I mean, I'll give to the church, tithe, all that kind of stuff. But I was like, when
Yeah.
I make X amount of dollars, I can't wait till I make that, because then I'm going to be such a giver. I'm going to be, did it. And literally the Holy Spirit was like, no, you're not. Because if you can't do it now, you're not going to do it
There
then.
you
I
go.
need to know I can
Yes.
trust you with what you have now. And it's always like tomorrow, tomorrow. It's like, we have to start today. And so, like, I'm literally in my car, and he's literally what I call spiritual pow pow. Like, basically,
Ooh.
and like
Uh-huh.
letting me know, like, no, what you think is not correct. Like, we need to work on this now. And so it was at
Yes.
that point when I realized how much, and he was working with fear in other areas. And so he was like, now it's time to work on fear when it comes to finances. Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh.
And
Yes.
that's when I realized I had a scarcity mindset. I had a poverty mindset. And it's like, you're not in
Yeah.
that space anymore. Like, you're not.
Hmm.
And if you continue to think that way, it doesn't matter how much is coming in. It doesn't matter what like wherever you are, or whatever accolades you
Right.
have, you're still going to have that mindset, and it's still going to keep holding you back from doing what I need you to do. So,
Yes. And he
yeah.
calls us to be good stewards over the resources that he gives us. And that can really go in either direction, right? So it can be like in your situation where you said that you like were scared to save money. So from a business perspective, that means that there's stuff you can be investing in and doing stuff, but you're like, oh no, I can't do it. I got to hold on to this money, right? Or the other end of the spectrum, which I've seen too, where people are spending
All
their
the money.
money like before it even gets in, right? And that's kind of probably where I was, some years ago, like just spending. So you have to learn how to manage it. And he's gonna bless you, like he gives you what you can handle, and he will
Mm-hmm.
bless
Mm-hmm.
you, right? He blesses those who are good stewards over their money. So I've seen God work miracles with my finances, and then I've also seen God, like people that may not have like the biggest salaries or making the most money, but they're doing so much, right? Because God is all in their business, in their finances, just doing stuff because they're good stewards over the money that they have. And I know that's you.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. And being a good steward, and then on top of that, making sure it's not coming from fear. It's literally coming from this place of trust and faith, which is something I've had to grow in. But as I'm
I
hearing you,
think
I'm like,
that. Yeah, that the faith part. I think the faith part is what's key because God tells us that He provides, right? So what He gives us, I mean, He's just seeing what we're gonna do with it. So that faith
Mm-hmm.
part is key. Like knowing that no matter what, no matter if you have $100 and He tell you to spend all 100 of that, to know that, tomorrow He's still gonna provide. That faith and connecting that faith is so key. It's so powerful. It's something that I've struggled with and that I see a lot of my clients as well. So it's almost like, we're reshifting and reshaping
Mm-hmm.
how people think about money and within their businesses.
Absolutely. Because you is that saying I've heard before, which is like you have to spend money to make money. And
You
as an
do. I
entrepreneur,
tell
I
people
know that all
that.
too well because starting out, it was it's a lot I had to pay for.
Ooh,
And if I had
yes.
that fearful mindset, I love how God does stuff because he literally in his perfect timing is like that call out happened. I would say a year before he called me into entrepreneurship was like, we're going into private
Okay.
practice now. And so to me, it's like he
Ooh,
prepared me for that. It wasn't like, oh, now jump ship from this, and go out there.
right.
It was like, no,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
prepare you. And now you're ready. And maybe not feel like you're ready, but you're ready because you've gotten rid of the mindset that was going to hold you back. Because I wouldn't
That
have been able
mindset.
to make the moves I did if I still had that fear.
I
So,
love how you mentioned the mindset because I think like the money mindset, and there's books and things that everyone can
mm-hmm,
listen to, to get into that. But that mindset and the faith is key just in driving your business. I'm trying to think of like specific examples within, well, for me, the biggest mindset was transitioning from corporate to business. Like that's
mm,
huge, right? So that takes a whole lot of faith and I know
mm-hmm,
you mentioned that you did that as well. When you work for your group practice and then transition to your private practice. So, it all I say this every day, like it all comes down to just putting full trust in God and that He will give you what you need in order to succeed in your business goals.
And as you talk about that, it leads me to a big part of why I asked you to be here. And thank you for saying yes.
Uh-huh.
And that is because I see what you do as someone who is bookkeeping and working with small business owners who, again, are
hmm
who are coming with all kinds of mindset, fear,
Yes.
anxiety, lack
Yes.
of knowledge, lack of wisdom, all these things that you are a
hmm
part of healing. Like you're a part of healing people's mindset around some about money that can feel so personal and can feel so stressful given the fact that clearly like in order to live we got to pay for it. um and
Yeah.
so I see that what you do as such an important part of that, and I'm
hmm
curious what one have you even thought of yourself as that? Probably not, I don't
No,
know.
I have not thought of myself as a healer.
And
Um,
so go ahead.
I haven't thought of myself as a healer, but I mean, when you put it in context, so one thing that I do, you might not even know that before I start really working with a client, like I pray, like God, just show me
Mm-hmm.
like what it is that this client needs within their business. So I guess in that aspect, I'm already kind of starting the healing process because I know how intimate finances and money are. I know I'm getting access to a lot,
A lot.
a lot of personal information. I mean, you would be amazed at just some of the things that, I see and that I'm being privy to. So I know how intimate and personal this is. So I don't want to do anything ever to like, one, compromise, anybody's financial information or to lead anybody astray. So I'm very, you know, just locked into making sure that everything that I do for that client is comes from God. So I'm praying about it. So I guess maybe that's where the form of healing comes. Um, and then we tackle, 'cause you're right, people bring all types of emotions and baggage and background into into their businesses. And like I said, like just from looking through their financial records for, an hour or two, I get a good sense of what's going on. And I pray about the direction to go even there. So I guess that maybe is where the healing piece of it comes. I just never used
Definitely.
that exact terminology for it.
I love it. And definitely, and it's such a
Hmm.
great example. And actually, that was going to be the next thing I wanted to go into. So look at you reading my notes. Um,
Oh, okay.
but going into how you incorporate faith in your business, in what you do, and being a part of people's healing journey in a way
Hmm.
that I know we don't normally think of it because you're like, oh, I'm the bookkeeper. How am I helping
Yeah,
people
yeah,
heal?
I'm a bookkeeper.
But it's
Yeah,
personal. Like people have a lot of
it's
trauma
so
around money. A lot
personal.
of things happen, a lot of experiences, and it shifts and shapes mindsets. And you're a part of helping people grow in that. And a scripture that comes to
Hmm.
mind, and when it comes to what you do as well, is Proverbs 16:16, which says, how much better
Mm.
to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than
Ooh,
silver. And what comes to mind
amen.
with that is just how much like you help people gain wisdom around money and how to steward it, because that's not something we learn in school. That's not something we sometimes
It's
don't learn
not.
from people around us because they weren't the best. They weren't
Yeah,
the best.
exactly.
And so you're
They weren't
able
the
to
best,
help them
and
with that. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and I don't take that for granted either. I don't, and they actually have, like, I mean, I know you are in this mental health, um, this world, but they have like actual financial therapists, right? So I don't
Mm-hmm.
consider myself to be a therapist. I'm an accountant, I'm a bookkeeper. However, I mean, you're right. I hadn't really thought about the conversations where I'm sitting there like almost coaching some of my clients about either some things they need to stop doing with their business finances or things that they need to start doing, and how hard it is because they're dealing with, trauma, as you call it, that they
Mm-hmm.
brought in, as a child. Because when you're a kid, like you think about it, they don't really learn about money. Yeah, they may get allowances and things like that, but it's when they start working and taxes are taken out and things that it like kind of hits home. So I feel like these kind of discussions need to start like so much earlier
Younger.
so that, yeah, yeah, so much younger, just so that they have like a good sense. And then they need to see it too. Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't see like good stewardship and finances while you're growing up, then it's kind of hard to like separate yourself from that. And I see all of that brought into it, just carries right on into your business. So
Exactly.
yeah, we do try to, navigate through that.
Yeah, because it makes me think of like people who like win the lottery and how there's just a high percentage of
Yes,
lottery winners that go bankrupt,
they go,
like totally
yeah,
broke. And
yeah,
it's crazy. You had all those millions of dollars. What happened? But it's like, it's not the amount, it's really the stewardship. And
that's
so
the
you go
part.
crazy, you go
Yeah,
crazy. Like, and
yeah,
then
I
that's it.
never. I should be able to understand it because I see it on a smaller scale, but I'm like, how did you get like $10 million and now you like it's gone in a year?
Got nothing. That's
Makes
crazy.
no sense.
But it goes back to,
Yes,
again, the mindset, and they
scarcity
they
mindset.
got this influx. But I feel like,
Hmm.
and there's people who can get the influx and seek the wisdom, but it's like, are you seeking the wisdom to make sure that you get the influx, invest it right, and
That's
get
the part.
ahead. And
Yeah.
so you're a part of doing that for people with their business. It makes me think that actually, gaining things over time and the process, like a lot of times we want to
Hmm.
skip the process of things. But even when it comes
Mm.
to building a business and building, or, gaining wealth or whatever, that's a process. It's like literally,
It's
that's
such
why
a
there's a
process.
difference between the person who actually started the business and they like did it from the ground up, and the person that may inherit the business if they're not actually
Mhm.
going through the process of like being like shadowing the person and like making sure they're learning the
Oh,
ins and out. So it makes me think of that, because like winning the lottery, for example, is like basically, oh, I just inherited all of this,
you just
and you didn't
inherited.
inherit
Now
the
what?
wisdom. You didn't inherit the
You,
wisdom. You
that's
just
when
inherited the
exactly.
gold. So
That's why you
that
hire the people that have the wisdom,
so
and even that you got to be prudent about, right? So,
exactly. And so it makes me excited about you in particular, and those who are in the marketplace for God, for the glory of God, and doing this work.
mhm.
Because, yes, you even saying like you prayed before and you were like seeking the ultimate wisdom giver when it comes to you being able
I
to
have
give your
to.
clients wisdom, which is important.
Yes,
And yes, vital. And I don't think
I
we
have to.
think of it as like that, but we need to. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I do not take for granted just like that responsibility. like we said it, like money can be like such an emotional thing, and for some people to even get to the point where they have like hired me, like I know they've already dealt with some things, so they know
Mm-hmm.
like they need some assistance. Because there's some people that they just like, okay, we'll do this. I can do this on my own, and then it can go, it can be good for them, it can go bad, but the fact that they have hired me and have trusted me, I don't take any of that lightly, and I will not be the cause of mishandling like anybody's, finances or their emotions. They can be led anyway. They look at me as a trusted advisor, so I want to make sure that I'm giving them true and trusted
Yeah.
guidance in that area.
Absolutely. Being very integral. I love it. I love it. So that is awesome. And just being able to be
Mhm.
guided there. It's such a huge responsibility. Just like as a clinician, as a counselor, like I'm privy to a lot of personal things. And it is such a great
Yes.
responsibility that we must take so seriously. Not be afraid of, but definitely have a reverence for,
Yes.
because it's important and we
It's
are
so important.
touching
It's so
people's
important.
lives in big
Yeah, that's such
ways.
an important part. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
true influence there. So that's really important to be a good steward over. All right, so as we wrap up this episode, I'm wondering two things. Like, so the
Hmm.
first one, I'm like, just words of wisdom, some first steps for people going into entrepreneurship, like whatever advice, I don't know,
Yes.
something to kind of give the people a little nugget around that. So that's the first
Yes.
thing that I'm wondering if
Okay.
you can wrap it up with that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, the best piece of advice I would give to somebody entering entrepreneurship is that even if you're not at a point to hire a professional for your business, which a lot of times it does not make sense to hire someone out right out the bat, to at least invest in a software or a
Mm-hmm.
spreadsheet or
Mm-hmm.
something just to keep track of all the things. Keep your
Mm-hmm.
business finances separate from your personal. That's what we see a lot, and that's what is
Mm,
always hard for us to kind of undo by the time they do come to the professional. So keep those business and finances, personal and business finances separate, and then
absolutely.
implement some type of tracking system so that everything is in order when you are ready to hire. That would be my best piece of advice.
That is good. That is actually so good. It's like simple but so important
So
because
simple.
I know when I first made that transition, I'm so thankful that I had a mentor that let me know like business and personal. Have a business account. Take
Yes.
do not mix those.
Don't mix them.
Do not do it.
This is
Keep
the
that
hardest
separate.
thing for people.
I
Yeah.
was so thankful for that. And then I was old school and I had the Excel sheet going and that was
And that's
difficult for me to keep
fine
up with.
for some.
But it
As a
helped.
new
It helped.
entrepreneur, it does. Yeah, I like appreciate that when somebody brings me their handy dandy spreadsheet where they've been keeping track
Yeah, I
of
was like, I did it the
everything.
old school way,
I
but now I don't
love
do the old
it.
school way. I can't do the old school way no more.
No.
I had to get the software
You
now.
need
I
some
gotta
help,
invest because
right?
I can't do that no more. But at the beginning,
Mm-mm.
yes, I definitely agree.
Yes, it makes
And
sense in the beginning.
it does. And so
Uh-huh.
wrapping and and I think another part of this too, as you were talking, I thought about my own my own story around this is like I didn't feel quite ready to hire when I made the decision to go ahead and start hiring a team. I was like, I don't know if I can afford a team,
Yes.
but I just felt like in order for me to expand in the way that I wanted to, I needed the help. And it just got to the point where it's like, this Russia ain't doing. It's like you gotta start going back to the spending money to make money. So there is gonna be a
Yes.
point where it's like, yes, you can do it on your own, but there's a point where it's like, look, you only have so much wisdom, and you're gonna have to pay for
You know
some
what?
more.
I, and that is such a great point. And I would probably like you get, I know we were but I will say that that part that point where you are, where you're like, do I hire? Do I not? Do I get a team now? That's where you have to be in prayer. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
right at that point is where you're praying for God to show you where to go, what direction you go. Because there's like a sweet spot there of like, am I getting enough money where it makes sense to start bringing on this team? And that's something that's pretty intuitive and something
Mm-hmm.
I encourage. Even when I just talk with people, just have general conversations, I tell them, pray about it before you hire me because I want you to be
Absolutely.
sure that, this makes sense for you and your business right now. And I will never take on anybody and they can't afford, just, to have a team and everything to go. So I think that's great that you like sat back and thought about it. That's not a decision that anyone should take lightly at all.
No, it wasn't. It was definitely some prayer on that because I was like, Lord, I just want to make sure. And he's like, yeah, you're fine. It's okay.
Yes.
I got you.
You
It's
need it at a
okay.
certain
I
point, but it
I
gotta hit
got
the
you.
right point, right? Yep.
It's like you've come this far and now you need help.
I will
Like
carry you
and
through this.
and now you
Yes.
need help. So no, that's
I
awesome.
love that.
So what would you say are your final thoughts that you want to share with the people before we end today's episode?
Yeah, yeah. So my final thoughts, since this podcast is about faith and God and money, is pretty much what we've been talking about all along, that ultimately that faith component, because a lot of running your business, like you may not have all the answers, you may not know what direction you're going to, you may have some high level goals, but that faith and trusting God and just
Mm-hmm.
knowing that if He tells you to do it, He is going to provide for you and He will see you through it. So just, I mean, business owners, it requires, entrepreneurship requires tons of prayer and
Woo,
faith in order to get through that
child.
journey. So that's my last comment or note here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it makes me think of Deuteronomy 8:18, but says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth." So confirm and so confirms his covenant, which is he swore to your ancestors as is today. So just knowing and trusting that
Amen.
he gives you the ability, like he gives you whatever you need, the mind, the brain, whatever, like the interest in finances, the interest in counseling, like over
The
here and
resources,
all the
He gives
resources,
all
all
of
of
that.
it comes ultimately from him. And he has promised us that, those of us who are in covenant with him. So being able to have that faith.
Amen.
And that's what, and like you said, absolutely. I can testify to that, that it takes a lot of faith because
I
sometimes
can
it be looking
too.
crazy.
I'm right there with you.
It can, and I really feel like so many things in my life have brought me closer to God, and entrepreneurship is definitely one of those things where it's like,
Me
okay,
too.
talk about out
It's
of
a
control.
healing journey, isn't it? I mean, it's like, it's your business is your baby, and you know how like intimate, like you have having
Hmm.
kids and things like that. It is such an intimate journey, and you do have to rely so much on God throughout that journey. So
I'll say
it's
yes.
beautiful. It really is.
Heavy on the faith. And again, going back to
Woo.
what I said earlier, which is that he really prepares you. And whenever he's calling you out, like he has prepared you. So trusting that, because again, he had to get rid of that mindset for me in order for me to be ready for what I'm doing now. And yes, there are times where fear still be like, hey, you still want to be friends? And I'm like, no, 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 I'm good. I'm gonna have to put it back in his hands. I can't pick this up
Give it to him.
again. So there's a temptation that's come, especially but
Yes.
God is good and He prepares even for that.
Yes,
And
he
so
is.
thank you so much, Rashida. It's awesome. It's kind of weird because my name's Rashida too, but
I know. I was just thinking that, like, how does that happen?
it's like
It
thank
was
you,
meant to happen,
Rashida.
but thank you so much for having me. This was really fun, Dr. Red. I'll call you Dr. Red, so
I
I feel
appreciate
so
it,
weird.
girl.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Okay. So thank you all for listening to today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed all the joy and all the wisdom that was shared today. I love y'all so much. Let's continue to heal together and I'll see you next time, next Thursday for another episode. Bye y'all.